is Damon Pfister. I'm the director of DCC in my second year directing the program. And I really found it to be a rewarding program that really stimulates a lot of creativity, gives students a lot of degrees of freedom. We have some DCC students in the chat here. And so I'm going to present a very short slideshow to kind of give you a sense of the program. And then I'd maybe like them to pipe up and volunteer what they like best about DCC. And then I think if I'm right, we'll sort of open it up to y'all's questions um, afterwards. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right, everybody see that? Awesome. Okay, so DCC. DCC is a program in the Honors College. It's actually a collaboration between the Honors College and the College of Arts and Humanities. And we sort of think of ourselves as a haven for creatives, makers, artists, tinkers, builders, and innovators. But not just people who like to engineer things or create or make art, but people who really sort of bridge design with cultures and with ethics, with sustainability and with justice. And so we've tried to develop a program that cultivates creative impulses in us, but with a direction towards sort of creating the better worlds that we all want to live in. It's a pretty straightforward program and comparable to some of the other living learning programs that you all may be considering at UMD. So your very first semester in year one, in the fall, you'll take HDCC 105, which is the introduction to the program. And you'll take that with me, the director, and that is the primary class of which we sort of interact. Um, we talk about all sorts of things in that class. We've talked about generative AI. We've talked about various keywords of design thinking. We have um, done mock client projects. We've learned Figma. We have done all sorts of things that kind of bridge digital media, creativity, arts, and culture. The following spring, you'll take HDCC 106. We offer 5 or 6 sections. These are smaller, more focused courses. So in 105, that is the only course that you'll take with your entire cohort. And that's about 60 to 65 people. That is the largest class you'll take in DCC. All the other classes are typically 12 to 15 people. So HDCC 106 focuses in on different dimensions of creativity. It could be a course in visual communication. It could be a course in music composition. It could be a course in computer programming languages. Then in the following fall, we give you the summer off. In the following fall, you'll take HDCC 208, and that is the capstone proposal where you are going to be focused on developing an idea for a big spring semester project. And you'll also take HDCC 208, which is the seminar in DCC. It's kind of like 106, but maybe a little more advanced. And then in the spring semester, you have basically all semester to create an ambitious project with scaffolded assignments and mentorship from program GAs and also other DCC students. And students do some really delightfully inventive things here. Students have created video games that draw attention to endangered fish species in the Chesapeake. Students have created augmented reality dating simulators. This is on the heels of COVID, so people needed a little extra coaxing to get back into the dating scene. People create large oil paintings or work on murals on the campus or create events to spotlight particular social issues that are important to them. We really try to meet the students where they are and have them leverage the skills that they brought into the program and the things that they've learned while in the program to do something unique and bold and creative. That all culminates then in the capstone fair. So, right before finals, students present the work that they have done in a sort of show and tell session. We have a great multi-purpose room and seminar room that are in the Prince Frederick Hall. This is the dormitory that you'll be staying in. It's one of UMD's newest dorms. It's one of UMD's nicest dorms. In fact, it's definitely the nicest dorm I've ever been in. And it is the host of all of our classes. So our big class, 105, meets in this seminar room. And then our other courses meet in the makerspace or the makerspace, which is in the basement of Prince Frederick. We also, I should say, have a sound studio. So those of you who are musicians or musically inclined have a place to collaborate with others, record music. We've got a brand new computer there, and we're getting all new equipment this year. What is DCC? Well, we like to think of it in terms of these four things, these four sort of constituents of our community. First of all, DCC is an entry point. DCC is a starting point. DCC is a place where you can land and immediately have a supportive cohort of other undergraduates and also a supportive collaborators and colleagues and just friends that are living with you in the dorm and taking classes with you. So it's a small community. We're one of the smallest living learning programs, and we like it that way. We're intentionally small so that everyone knows everyone else's names, so that all the instructors know the names of their students. And it is ideally going to give you kind of a strong foundation from which to continue your collegiate career. Second, DCC provides mentorship. Well, of course, you're going to get mentorship from faculty like myself, like other instructors in 106 or 208. You're also going to get mentorship from fellow undergraduate students, fellow DCC students. But you are also going to get mentorship through different kinds of programming that we offer. So I mentioned that we have a makerspace. It's actually been newly remodeled. So it's an amazing looking space now. And in that space, we have a wide range of structured activities. Sometimes we just have open hours where people can go and do, whatever they want. But at other times, we have focused workshops on particular artistic practices like oil painting, or computer programming, or working with a particular software suite. Sometimes we just have someone in our community who is eager to Skillshare. That actually characterizes me. I wanted to teach folks about fermentation and how fermentation kind of opens up culinary creativity. So I hosted a fermentation workshop last semester, and we made some tasty food. So DCC is not just an entry point, but it's a spot where you're going to find some mentorship. We also pride ourselves in cultivating a welcoming atmosphere and really believing in the idea that people should belong across boundaries. Whoever you are, we want you to bring that self to DCC. We don't want you to feel like you can't be who you are. DCC is one of the most diverse communities along every kind of identity category, every kind of religion, class status, geography. It's a really interesting, thriving community and one that supports each other and that actually, because we think about culture in a serious, rich way, one that takes and honors cultural differences seriously, but also tries to talk across them. Finally, we think about DCC as maybe a breath of fresh air, something a little different from what you get in your other courses. Many of you are probably going to be STEM majors. Many of you may be business majors. Many of you may be in majors in which your creativity is not being fully exercised. And we think that your creativity should be exercised. We think that we can create a unique educational experience that actually spotlights creativity in a way that other courses don't. So in our courses, we really believe that making is a mode of thinking, that when you're doing, you're actually learning quite a bit more than if you are listening in lecture. And it's not to cast too much shade to those who lecture. I lecture occasionally, but we really try to make it to where our classes are not focused on testing or quizzes, but they're more focused on doing. So that is my kind of overview from 10,000 feet. And I think what I would like to do now is stop sharing and turn it over to those folks who really know the community best, who are living in the community right now. I see, I guess, three or four names that I recognize. So I'm wondering if you all could at least unmute and maybe turn your camera on if you're able. And I know it's kind of a weird time for some of you. But if you could just say hello and maybe unmute and tell us what's your favorite thing about DCC? What's the thing that surprised you? What's the thing that might sort of attract people to the community that I didn't really cover? Um, Leah, shall we start with you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Leia. I'm a junior. I'm studying bioengineering. And my favorite thing about DCC is probably just the people, because you meet so many people and they're all in different majors, studying different things, but everybody kind of comes together with the same mindset of like valuing creativity and valuing diversity. And everyone really likes to share their own forms of creativity and really make things. And that's probably my favorite thing.
Awesome. Ashika, sorry, I'm catching up with the chat here, realizing the presentation didn't exactly hit. While Ashika's talking, I'm gonna drop that link in, and I think you all should be able to see it then. Ashika?
Hey, my name is Ashika. I'm a sophomore and I'm a public health science major. And my favorite part about DCC, I would say, is the community. It's just really fun because we'll all be in the study lounge, like studying together, and we'll all get dinner together, whatever it might be. It's just such a good community to be around. I notice like a lot of my friends when they come over to the dorm, they're always like, wow, you guys all know each other. You're always talking to each other. So I think a lot of people would say that the people in DCC make such a big difference. I think the resources are also amazing. Like Dr. Pfister mentioned, the maker space is really nice. They have like clay, like whatever you can think of, they have like a Cricut machine. I have this like little clay thing that I made. And then like from the little classes, somebody taught like a fluid painting. So just small things like that. I think it just makes school a little bit more fun. There's a lot, I would say DCC, from my class at least, is a lot of engineers and in general, a lot of STEM majors. So I think everybody appreciates having an outlet for their creativity because everyone came here for a reason. There's some creative aspect that they enjoy. Like for me personally, I did art like ever since I was little. So I liked that here I got to continue having like the science, but also having a space for my creative field. Yes.
All right, so both Leah and Ashika are second year students. So DCC is just a 2-year program, like all the living learning programs at UMD, trying to give you that strong foundation. Ashika is also on our student council, and as well as the next person that I'll introduce. DCC has a student council, 5 students from each cohort, so 10 students total, who coordinate events monthly. We just talked about the event that they're having on February 13th, a speed friending event where they're trying to just kind of create an opportunity for folks to socialize. Um, the person I want to introduce next is in their first year at DCC, also on the student council, Sonia.
Hello, my name is Sania. I'm a freshman bioengineering student, and I think obviously I love the community. And one thing that I think is like really interesting about that is the student council events. I think that it's so much fun to go. We just host events in the lounge, and I think everyone just interacting with each other, and we have it every month. And especially, it's really interesting to talk with like people like sophomores. And I think one thing that really I learned as I went through is how welcoming even like not just like your own class, but even the sophomores. And I love talking to them and like learning from their experiences. And I think that just in general just creates such a nice community.
That's well said. I think that's, really powerful because when you land in a place like UMD, it can feel large. It's a large university, and there are so many incredible benefits to that, so many opportunities. But if you don't know what those opportunities are, then you won't be able to take advantage of them. And the fact that we have a class that's right ahead of you, they've got their finger on the pulse of the UMD community. They know the organizations. They know how to connect people, with similar interests. They know the courses to take and the instructors to avoid. And that kind of knowledge is, I think, extremely valuable. I think at this point, we typically just turn it over to Q&A. And so, I'm comfortable with you all dropping it in the chat if you would like, or you can maybe raise your hands and unmute yourself and ask then. I did see a question here about comp sci related courses, and that's a great question. I would say, and DCC students, feel free to correct me. I would say about a third, maybe more than a third of our students are computer science majors. And typically they find a lot to like in DCC. Every semester we offer, I believe almost every semester, if not every semester, we do offer a course that is taught by a computer science faculty member. So in the last course in the fall taught by that professor was about computer programming languages, and I believe that the students created their own programming language in that class. So lots of options there for sure. Our computer science majors flourish in the program. And many of them, I think, end up gravitating away from the computer science courses and towards something that, scratches a different itch for them, maybe more creatively. So, maybe you don't want to think about computer science after doing that all day and you want to do something different. Well, DCC has that too. Um, all right. I'm catching up on the chat here a little bit and realizing we've got questions in a Q&A section as well. All right, and I'm catching those now. Great. One of the questions is there a housing requirement? There is not. We do have a few commuter students, although most of our students do live in Prince Frederick. Some living learning programs do have commuter or do have residency requirements. We do not. We have just a handful of commuters. Most people do live in the dorms. Does one of our DCC students want to talk just quickly about Prince Frederick as a place to live?
I can do that real quick. Prince Frederick is really nice. It's on South Campus, so it's kind of nice that it's a little bit further away from everybody because I noticed that we build the community faster since we're all a little bit far away. It's right next to South Campus Dining Hall, so it's literally like a 2-minute walk. And then it's just a really nice building. Like here, if you can see my room, like it's pretty big. That's just my side. I think it's definitely like the biggest rooms on campus. We have it split where like 2 floors are for each honors college, at least for 3 of them. And then what else? There's a lot. There's like the maker space, and then we have like big classrooms, like multi-purpose rooms. I don't know if I missed anything else.
Yeah, that's great. Prince Frederick is in a nice place on campus too. I think it's a good location. It's near food and coffee. A little bit of a walk to some spots on campus, but overall pretty good. All right, Sarah asks, is everyone able to use the makerspace or only DCC students? Well, this is one of the perks of being a DCC student. Only DCC students can use the makerspace. We actually have a number of makerspaces on campus, 10 or 12 of them. We have a book lab, which is devoted to traditional printing arts. We have a couple of wood shops. We have a couple of artistic studios, architectural studios. And many of those, kind of anyone who's a UMD student can access the wood shop, for example, the Terrapin Works wood shop. But only DCC students can use the makerspace in the sound studio. And we keep setting records for attendance in the makerspace. I don't know, Leah or Sonia, if you'd like to say a little bit more about kind of the makerspace vibe. Like Ashika kind of mentioned that earlier. I think it's a social space as well as a creative space. But can you say just a little bit more about the kind of stuff that goes on there?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I think the makerspace is such a fun place. A lot of people will go there if they're even if they're just doing homework, they'll just sit around. It's like a nice space to just like either do like your creative passions. For example, I love sewing in there. There's a sewing machine, so I do that often. Or you can just come in there and just like do your homework. A lot of times there's music playing. There's a lot of times there's music and just lighting is really nice. So it's just a really great place to like get to talk to people and do your homework or just whatever creative passions that you want to work on.
I
That's
can
great.
add on to that a little bit too. So I really liked the Makerspace because it just had so many resources. Like I was really into 3D printing. They have a 3D printer. There's all sorts of painting and art supplies. You can print all sorts of things on different kinds of paper, not just regular printer paper. And you can also work on your DCC projects there. And it's literally right in the bottom of Prince Frederick. It's just an elevator ride down. And one thing that was really cool about the Makerspace was if you needed like a resource for not even just a class project, but like a personal project, you could always like put in a request for it and they'll try to add it. So like really the potential in the Makerspace is limitless. And they also do like a lot of Teach Me events where other DCC students or staff will come in and like they'll have the resources available for you to teach you how to do a new skill. And all that happens in the Makerspace and people will just gather around and there's lots of chatting, lots of laughter. So it's definitely a really good bonding space.
Thanks for that, Leah. Vivian asks if the capstone project can be or has to be completed in a team. How large are the teams? So the short answer to that is that capstone projects are usually individual, but they are sometimes two or three people collaborating on a single kind of project, especially our more events-based projects. So there's a project last year, for example, called the Petal Project that was aiming to draw attention to relationship abuse and violence within romantic relationships, a topic that was near and dear to the organizers' hearts. And so they worked together to do something really neat and plan a kind of big campus activity. So it's not required, but it is possible. And I wonder if Leah or Ashika, who are in the capstone course now, know of anyone in that course who is collaborating on teams in order to do a capstone.
Yeah, I know Sophia and
Natalie.
Natalie. They're collaborating. So they're doing like they're teaching Latin dance. And so they're creating kind of like a schedule and like doing dance classes. And I think they're just trying to make it so that they can spread the culture and all that. So I think for again, like Dr. Pfister said, for bigger events and just like event planning like that, I think having a group is definitely beneficial. Otherwise, most people that I know are doing it by themselves.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Ashika.
So
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, please.
Also, so I actually took capstone last year. So I knew a couple people who worked in a group. Most people, including myself, did capstone on their own just because it's allows more flexibility. But I do know that there was one project that was really cool that had, I think, actually three people working on it, and they made like a video about DCC Stuco, kind of like if you've ever seen Modern Family with the interviews. And one reason they decided to work in a group was because with your capstone project, sometimes it's so big that you require people who have a lot of different skill sets. So in that case, they had one person who was really good at videography, another group member who was really good at like screenwriting, and together they were able to create something really unique. And I know in other instances, a lot of times with videoing, like my roommate, she did like a Star Wars video. So she and her partner, they had people come in and they did a lot of filming, and they had to have a lot of members to help create the video that they did. And then I also remember the pedal project. That was a really big project that had two people on it. But in general, I think most people did work on their own, but it's definitely possible.
Great. I think I'm going to field the series of questions here posed by Crochet. So Crochet asks if I can share some ways DCC integrates new technologies with social, cultural, and economic values within class activities. Well, so a couple of years ago, when generative AI was really emergent on the scene, we devoted the 105 class to really studying it, studying the ecological implications of generative AI, studying the ways in which it was producing biased or discriminatory results. And so students got into these new software technologies, ChatGPT and Midjourney and the like, Adobe Firefly. They got, by the way, UMD gives you access to the whole Adobe Creative Suite simply by being a student, and it's used in quite a few DCC classes. Um, and so students got opportunities to sort of see what generative AI could do. This past year, we were doing mock client projects where we were trying to meet the needs of particular clients, and these clients had, maybe ecological values that they wanted to express in a particular design challenge. And so students would have to develop, design products, graphic design products that would meet those challenges. Um, I think that, we've kind of gotten a couple of hints that there's a 3D printer, there's a virtual reality setup in the makerspace. Um, Lots of our students are engineers. They do CAD stuff. I've had CAD projects in my class. And so I think that these are all very much kind of in our wheelhouse. If you know a little bit about 3D printing, great. If you don't, we will connect you with someone who does. Our Makerspace student managers, that's a paid position for DCC students, will teach you how to do the basics of 3D printing. And sometimes there are workshops that really focus on skills like 3D printing or maybe CAD design in DCC. In terms of expectations, I think what I would like to do is encourage you all to just go to our website, dcc.umd.edu. I'm dropping it in the Q&A and in the chat, just so everyone has it. Although it's got a nice kind of rhythmic pattern to it that makes it memorable, dcc.umd.edu. And there you can kind of see our values. You can see the kinds of courses that we've taught and kind of come to understand the program just a little bit better. Audrey asks, how is the experience with the program if you're not a STEM major? I would say it's pretty good. We probably have maybe a third of students are not STEM majors. They're either in the arts and humanities, or they're in business, or they're in some kind of other program that isn't particularly STEMmy. I think Leah and Ashika are both STEM majors. Is that right? But Sonia, I'm not sure what your major is. And Ashika, you're also not a STEM major, is that right? Are you a double major?
I don't know. We're all STEM majors.
You're all STEM majors.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that doesn't help my case that non-STEM majors do just fine in the program. But I think that actually you'll find that is the case. We have a lot of double majors also. So folks who may be majoring in a STEM major, but then may also be majoring in music performance or visual arts or something like that. Mishana asks about whether an architecture major would benefit. Yes, we have a lot of architecture majors, and that is definitely a major that dovetails very nicely with DCC's mission. Um, Students have done very well and have been able to bridge what they've learned in their DCC classes with their major in ways that we really, we try to create. It looks like we have a few. Do we have questions also now in the chat? It doesn't look like we have any more questions in the Q&A. Yeah, okay. So I'm wondering if anyone has a question where they'd like to unmute or use the Q&A function to drop in another question. Otherwise, I will just call on Leah, Ashika, or Sonia to give you random DCC facts. And that could be fun also, perhaps a bit educational. All right, Sonia, what is the one thing that has surprised you about DCC? Because you probably attended something like this last year, right? You may be having like some weird flashbacks here. Um, and we're glad you made the decision that you did. But what's one thing that you like didn't really realize was going to be an advantage of DCC or something that just kind of um, intrigues you about DCC now that you didn't know then?
Yeah, so I remember I was literally in this chat like last year, so it really does feel like interesting to be on like the other side. But yeah, one thing I think is really interesting and I didn't really expect is like the discussion-based classes. I personally like was always kind of scared of talking and like never really like raised my hand in classes, but I think seeing everyone like actually actively talking and participating like in my class I'm taking right now, it's a really small class and it's about like right now we're like learning about philosophy. And honestly, I didn't know that's what that was going to be going into the class, but I think it's so interesting. And I really like love, like, I was just surprised by the wide range of like classes there are. Like, even though it was like design, I didn't think like there'd be like a philosophy and linguistics class. So I think that was really interesting to me.
Couple of questions have come in while you shared that, Sonia, so thank you so much. Can you explain the internship part of DCC? Yes, there's a final 3 credits that I didn't show on those slides, or I think maybe it's on there, a small part, where you can either take an internship for credit that can fulfill your DCC requirements, or you take a 300 or 400 level course that is related to design. It could be in your major, it could be an elective, it could be a minor. Just something that where you're able to sort of activate some of those creative design oriented energies. Lots of students do internships at UMD. And so I would say, quite a few end up doing an internship for credit and using that to fulfill their final program requirements. DCC does not have internships or sponsor any, but there are offices on the campus that can help you do that. And then Sathwika asks a question that I think is really best for our students to answer, which is, why did you choose DCC over the other LLPs? Did you have experience with design? And if you didn't, what was your experience in the program? That's a fascinating question. What made you choose DCC? And I guess the subtext there is also, do you regret it? Are you happy with the decision? Um, Ashika, how about you start?
Okay, so for DCC, I went to all the little Zoom meetings, and honestly, it was kind of DCC or nothing. Like for me, DCC just really spoke to me. I like the fact that there was a creative outlet because I also did art all throughout high school, like classes. So again, it was just having that balance, and I liked that in college, having the classes integrated into the program kind of like would force me to like just keep having that into my schedule. And I remember Dr. Liu, the other like co-director, she talked a lot about the community, and it's just the way she spoke about it. It really, I don't know, I think it just hit the spot. I was like, that's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. Um, yeah, I feel like, and also like all the resources and the capstone actually spoke to me a lot. My senior year of high school, I was in an independent study art class, and there I like did an art installation and a mural. So I knew for like a long time that having that independent time is to like have creative expression is something that I really wanted. And to have that in college as well, I was like, wow, that's like perfect. I'm getting credit for something that I want to do. I'm having the time to do that. So yeah, I think those were the three main things that really caught my eye for DCC.
Great. Leah, maybe you can explain your decision-making process.
Yeah. So I was in a similar boat. I was like, I either want DCC or nothing, just because honestly, DCC sounded the most fun, and I still stand by that. A lot of the other honors college, a lot of the other honors colleges are kind of centered around like a subject or a topic, like business, biology. But DCC was more of an ideology, and even though I'm in STEM and I love math and science, I also was always very passionate about art and also just thinking outside the box. And for someone who takes a lot of math and physics classes, I felt that I really needed an outlet for creativity and something that was going to give me a really good holistic viewpoint to engineering. And when I was trying to decide like what honors college should I do, I was like, I want something that's going to complement what I plan to do. I want to be able to understand why I design, who I design for, and what the different elements to that are before just jumping into, okay, how am I gonna make this prosthetic leg? And I don't regret my decision at all. I think the people are amazing. I think the classes have such a wide range of skills and topics to think about. And I think it has probably been one of the most fun parts of my college experience.
Thank you, Leah. Finally, Sonia, this is a fresher decision for you. What tipped the scales?
Yeah, so as I said last year, I remember being on like the Zoom call, and while the presentation was going on, I just remember thinking like, wow, this is like exactly what I want to do. And kind of similar to what both Ashika and Leah said, I really thought like as I was going through or as I was listening to the presentation, the capstone really caught my eye. I just thought the idea of being able to have like a full semester dedicated to something I want to do because I love sewing and I've always done like small projects. So I thought the idea of doing like a bigger project, kind of devoting a semester to it, sounded really interesting. And I really thought that like that would be a great way for it to like help me expand myself like creatively and be a very personally enriching objective. And very similar to what Leia said, I'm also like an engineering major, and I was going through and I was like, I want to do like I kind of wanted to do something that I think would like align with also my major. And I thought that this was like kind of perfect because as an engineer, kind of like learning to design and like what important considerations. And I think that one thing that also this is just kind of as I've learned is that like how like integrated like this like in our class we learned about very human-centered design, and I think that's very applicable in engineering. So that's I didn't realize how much that the kind of overlap would be, but that was also something that I really drew me in.
Those are all awesome answers, y'all. Thank you for sharing that. Crochet asks, that they've got an interest in turning designs and projects into marketable products. Would DCC help develop that interest, or would IBH, Interdisciplinary Business Honors, help more with that? Well, I'll be honest with you, we don't really focus on product design or industrial design or on equipping people to sell in a marketplace. So I'll be upfront with you that that's not really the focus of the program, and if you're looking to figure out more the business side of things, then IBH is an outstanding program, and you may well flourish there. That being said, um, we have a lot of students who do this kind of work, right? Who are interested in exactly what you're describing, which is to use design in some way to create some products that they may want to sell. Um, so there's definitely an overlap there. And if you're curious more on the front end, on the design end, as Sonia was saying, like on what human-centered design means, on different ways of thinking about ethical design or sustainable design, then DCC is a good place for you. And I think DCC would also give you exposure to a lot of different skills, different technologies, whether it's VR or 3D printing or hand tools, woodworking tools, whatever the case may be. I think that it will give you kind of an expansive perspective on the world of design that probably would be helpful as you move forward with marketing products of some kind or another. I don't know if any of our students want to chime in on that particular point, but I'd welcome either contrasting or confirming testimony on that point.
One thing that I think was, or like something that's interesting in my class, or like in this semester or last semester, we worked on the mock client project, and that really like, and we really learned the skills of like kind of tailoring to like a specific like customer base. And I think like projects like that could also help in this kind of like marketing design, like trying to think of what do people want. So I think in that aspect, like there are some projects that I think you can use like you can use the skills that you've learned in these class for marketing.
Yeah, great point, Sonia. So Arvind asks about some AI related capstone projects that have been done, if any. I think that may be an important question because students were last year were kind of already on their capstone journeys when AI started to disrupt just about everything. I wonder if Ashika knows of any projects being done with AI.
I fear I don't. I'm sure somebody is integrating it, um, but I can't think off the top of my head. I
Yeah.
feel like Adam is doing something related. I know it's CS related. I think he's making a game or app, but I don't know if he's using AI.
I'll tell you, Arvind, what you're describing, if I catch the drift of it appropriately, um, it's very similar to what the art Department of Art professor and chair Brandon Morse does. He creates these computational systems, these AI systems that then create different kinds of art. I'm not doing it justice in explaining it, but you can check out Brandon Morse's website. And the reason that I mentioned this is that Brandon Morse is a longtime faculty contributor to DCC. So he's been doing this for literally decades, using computational systems to generate art. Um, and because he's chair right now of the art department, he's not a regular faculty member of DCC, but I think you can sense that the spirit is there. That sounds like the kind of thing that you could pursue at DCC with some success. I don't know if any of the students want to chime in on that part of the question.
I can add, I mean, when I did capstone, I don't particularly remember anyone doing anything about AI. There was a lot of like coding, but I mean, the 106 class I took with you, Professor Pfister, we worked a lot with like thinking about AI and its limitations and how like we're integrating it into society. And I think one of the great things about DCC is it's ever evolving. So like the more we're, adapting AI into our lives and into the entire school, I think it's not a topic that DCC is afraid to just jump right into. And one of the big and great things about Capstone is you're supposed to do something new. You're supposed to think yeah, I wonder if this could work. And then you just try it. So, even though maybe I can't think of anyone who's done a project with AI, I mean, I don't see any reason anyone wouldn't do it. I think it's a great capstone project. And I think it's something that could work really well within the framework of DCC.
Absolutely. Come be our first one. I suspect, like Ashika said, you won't be our first one. I think someone is probably doing something with generative AI. Um, you know, UMD is becoming a leader in AI, where we've just developed a new institute that's about studying and teaching about artificial intelligence. We're hiring something like 40 faculty members over the next 5 years that are focused in artificial intelligence. Um, UMD just rolled out their quasi-proprietary TERP AI, which is built on ChatGPT, but has better guardrails, or so I gather. In other words, I think the privacy is much stronger for students. So OpenAI is not hoovering up your personal data, your queries, your prompts, etc. Um, I think there's probably more guardrails in terms of the content you might be able to search for. That's probably largely a good thing. So, it's a what a time to be alive with artificial intelligence changing and evolving so quickly. The I will say that the University of Maryland, better than most, is seems to be trying to really take it seriously and try to find some firm footing and find some resources to help folks who are interested in working with and studying AI. So if you're just joining us, I know a few people have, we're fielding questions about the Design Cultures and Creativity Living Learning Program at the University of Maryland. We've got three DCC students at different levels of the program, a recent graduate, a second year student, and a first year student. So we've answered all kinds of questions about the living situations and the programs, and the social life, the curriculum. But our time is waning. And so if you have any questions, I'd really encourage you to unmute or drop your question in the Q&A or possibly in the chat if you're still in the chat. Oh, and I do see that I can't quite see that name. Yeji asked, are there any research opportunities available in DCC? Yeah, and Ashika's got it right. That Gemstone is probably the premier like undergraduate research experience. So if that's what you're interested in, then I definitely pursue that. That being said, DCC is a good launching pad to get you connections to other people who might be interested in collaborating on research with you. So I know of numerous, like probably more than 10 DCC students who are research assistants for various professors around campus. So they're getting involved with on-the-ground research with yeah, whether it's in a laboratory or whether it's in an archive, whether it's in a computer lab, where they're doing, where they're playing a role in the research process. So, like Ashika said, we don't really want you to be writing papers or taking tests. We want you to be making things. So that's not so much our focus, but if research is what you're interested in, we can get you there from DCC. At the same time, if you want the nation's premier research experience for undergraduate students, Gemstones is a really great option. A food science major. Hi, Rose. Thanks for that question. To my knowledge, we do not have anyone from the Department of Nutrition and Food Science as part of DCC. Definitely not opposed to it, and especially because that department now sponsors a minor in fermentation, I believe. So maybe they should be teaching the workshops. I think that there's definitely some possibilities in terms of integration with a capstone. DCC is one of the most diverse programs in terms of majors. So I think we've had something like 42 different majors in DCC. Not 100% sure if we've had a nutrition and food sciences major, but I bet we probably have at some point. Um, and so, people have all kinds of disciplinary interests, and they find a home in DCC just fine. And I'm sure you would as well. Crochet then asks, are we more focused on bringing like-minded people together rather than a specific field like business, humanities, engineering, bio? I want to say a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B there, Crochet. We definitely are, I think, somewhat like-minded in as much as everyone in DCC has some kind of design game, right? They may be sewing, they may be making video games, they may be programming or doing graphic design, visual arts, dance, violin, viola. We have all kinds of, we got a whole orchestra at DCC. So sure, we're like-minded people. But I do think that actually like design is akin to business and engineering and biology. Actually, in the last 20 or 30 years, um, design is being taken more seriously, and people are talking about design as a discipline in and of itself. Um, I more or less think that. I more or less think that there's so much content in design. This last year, we focused every class period on a different keyword of design. So the different steps in the process of design thinking. We talked about accessibility. We talked about human-centered design. Some of the words that you've heard here today. And I think that you will find the material as interesting and as challenging as any of the material from business or engineering or bio. We do have a kind of humanities orientation. I'm a humanities scholar. My home department is the Department of Communication. And so I kind of bring that humanities orientation to thinking about design. But we do so in a way that sees the interaction between humanities and STEM, humanities and engineering, humanities and bio. Yeah, that's a great gloss on that question, Ashika. We're design, creativity, art and technology. These are some key words of our community. But how that looks for every student is really quite different. And that's one of the things that makes DCC such a cool community to be a part of. I'm wondering, I see just a couple of minutes left. I'm wondering if Leah, Ashika, and Sania could give just a parting thought. And maybe if not a full-fledged thought, what about just like a parting word? So if you don't have one thing that you're like really kind of like here's why you should come DCC's way. What about just like a word that captures the vibe of DCC? We'll go in order of seniority. Can we do that? Leah, you're first.
One word. That's kind of hard. But I'd probably say community.
Nice. Ashika?
I'd say innovation.
Okay.
Kind of
And
in a similar,
sorry, what was that, Sania?
in a similar vein, I'd probably say welcoming.
Okay. So a welcoming, innovative community. I like that. I think those are the three keywords that really capture the spirit of DCC. And I think, in a time where there's so much uncertainty and so much unkindness in the world, um, welcoming, innovative communities are what we need. I can't wait to see some of you in the classroom next year, or even before that at Move-In Weekend in late August. If you would like, I will drop my email in the chat, but you can also find it on the UMD website. It also is sort of rhythmic and easy to remember. It is dsp@umd.edu. and I'd be happy to answer any further questions at that address. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, DCC students, for coming. You all are awesome as usual.